Westerns used to be the backbone of American movies. Now they barely get made, and when they do, nobody goes. They just don't make stars like this anymore, and they sure as hell don't write men like this anymore. But it doesn't mean the classics suck. Actually, plenty of these older Westerns are still great, still pack the same punch today that they did back then. This is a spaghetti Western, but not your usual shoot-'em-up. Lee Van Cleef stars here as a drifter and thief who prefers pulling clever scams rather than just shooting people. So he and his crew head into town planning to rob a big shipment of silver from a mining operation. But there's another gang there, way nastier, who have exactly the same idea. Casting Lee Van Cleef as your hero in a spaghetti Western is tricky because his face just screams villain. He looks like he enjoys making people miserable. But smartly, they got Gordon Mitchell to play the real bad guy, and Mitchell looks even meaner just standing still. So that balances out nicely. Movie has lots of good twists, great supporting characters, and an ending you genuinely won't see coming. Gary Cooper stars as Link Jones, a guy who's tried to bury his outlaw past and live quietly under a new name. But everything blows up when he gets caught up in a train robbery carried out by his own former gang. The outlaws take a bunch of money that Link was carrying for his adopted hometown, and Link gets knocked out during the robbery. He ends up stranded with Julie London's character Billy, and together they head to an old rundown ranch, one Link used to live in. Sure enough, the gang's already there waiting for them. To survive, Link pretends he's returned to the gang for good, but these guys aren't dumb. They don't really trust him. Now he's in a tight spot, find the stolen money or lose any chance at going back to his quiet life. And he's got to protect Billy from these psychos too. Things boil over when they hit a nearby town planning another robbery, find it almost empty, and one gang member snaps and murders a woman. That sets up an ending that's absolutely brutal and completely shocking. Gregory Peck stars here, and you know it's a huge film when actors like Charlton Heston, Chuck Connors, and Alfonso Bedoya are just supporting him. And yeah, it's massive, almost 3 hours long, filmed in beautiful widescreen, gorgeous scenery everywhere you look. Peck plays a former sea captain named James McKay, who heads west to Montana to marry a rich rancher's daughter. Problem is, he's seen as this clueless outsider who knows nothing about ranch life. So pretty much everyone, including his fiancée, constantly tests and challenges him. But even though he doesn't know ranching, life as a ship captain taught him how to handle himself. He's way tougher than people realize. Huge scale, big emotions, classic Hollywood Western stuff. Burl Ives especially stands out here. He even won Best Supporting Actor at the Oscars and Golden Globes for this one. Another retelling of the gunfight at the OK Corral, but this time starring James Garner as Wyatt Earp and Jason Robards as Doc Holliday. Both give great performances. Garner's Earp is principled and noble, while Robards' Holliday is cynical and darker. Their chemistry is amazing, really holds the movie together. The movie promises to be historically accurate, the way it happened, and while it is better than most films about the OK Corral, it still takes some creative license. They get the big showdown done right away, then move on to stuff movies usually ignore, like the court trials afterwards. Most of the film actually follows Earp tracking down the cowboys who escaped, especially Ike Clanton, played by Robert Ryan. But what's really interesting here is how Earp and Holliday slowly swap roles. By the end, Holliday becomes the moral hero, and Earp sinks deeper into revenge and violence. Really powerful ending to a surprisingly thoughtful Western. Randolph Scott stars here, and you immediately see why he was such a huge star back then. Like John Wayne or Schwarzenegger after him, Scott mostly just played himself, but his charisma and charm made him perfect as a leading man. Story's all about mystery and intrigue. Scott plays Andrew Barclay, a sophisticated-looking outsider who helps a robber named Tanner, played by Forrest Tucker. Tanner's hidden a fortune in stolen gold, about $250,000, which would be over $8 million today, and basically everyone wants it. Scott's character is mysterious. Why is he helping Tanner? What's his real angle? The best part by far is watching Scott and Tucker constantly trick each other, each guy always trying to outsmart the other. The movie ends strong, pulling all its plot threads neatly together into one satisfying finale. Samuel Fuller directed this one, definitely one of his best-known films and maybe his best-looking. The visuals are incredible, full widescreen shots, amazing close-ups, and some seriously creative camera moves. Barbara Stanwyck is the lead here. Pretty unusual choice for a Western in the 50s. She plays Jessica Drummond, a powerful landowner who rules over her territory with 40 hired gunmen, led by her ruthless brother. Barry Sullivan is Griff Bonnell, the romantic interest who comes into town with his two brothers on official business to arrest one of Jessica's men for mail robbery. It's beautifully shot, really engaging characters, great performances all around. Definitely not your average Western, and still feels fresh today. Here's a Western that's not like most Westerns you're used to seeing. Charles Bronson plays Chino, a mixed-race horse trainer who ends up taking in a young orphan boy, played by Vincent Van Patten, teaching him everything about horses and ranch life. The kid does an incredible job too. Child actors can go either way, but Van Patten totally nails it. But what really drives the movie is a forbidden romance between Chino and Catherine, played by Jill Ireland, who happened to be Bronson's wife in real life. You feel their chemistry right away. Even when they're arguing, there's still this real affection underneath. Conflict shows up when Catherine's brother steps in, completely outraged at the idea of his sister marrying someone of mixed heritage. The ending isn't your usual neat Hollywood wrap-up. It's bittersweet, genuinely affecting, and actually makes a really thoughtful point. Randolph Scott again. And this one is basically a perfect example of a straightforward, no-nonsense Western. Scott plays Brennan, a guy who loses his horse in a dumb bet early on, promises a young kid he'll be back later with candy sticks, and sets out walking through the desert. Soon he's picked up by a stagecoach driven by a friend, and just like that, everything goes wrong fast. Bandits ambush them, kill the driver, and kidnap everyone on board. Now it's a desperate fight for survival. Interesting side note, the movie was originally supposed to be called The Captives, which actually fits better considering the plot, but they switched it last minute to The Tall T, which is the name of a ranch from the start of the film. The acting here is tight. Richard Boone leads the villains. Totally believable, nasty, but never cartoonish. The script doesn't waste words either. Every line pushes the story forward, keeps you guessing about everyone's fate until literally the final moments. Just a perfectly stripped-down Western, simple, tense, and really effective. Gregory Peck stars here as Jimmy Ringo, a gunslinger who's getting older, tired, and desperately wants out of the outlaw life. Trouble is, young hotshots keep showing up, wanting to make their name by taking him out. Early in the film, he kills one in self-defense, and suddenly he's got a posse of angry relatives chasing him down. He ends up in this small town called Cayenne, meeting an old friend who's now the sheriff. Turns out he's really there trying to reconnect with his estranged wife and their young son. But while he's waiting around, tensions in town just build higher and higher. What really makes the movie stand out is Peck himself. He totally sells that feeling of being exhausted by his own legend. The movie frames him perfectly too. Lots of shots isolating him in crowded rooms really drives home how lonely his life is. By the end, Ringo finally gets that meeting with his family, ready to walk away from everything, start over somewhere new. But his reputation is just too big to escape, and he learns the hard way that some people can never go home again. The only comedy on this list, and it's genuinely hilarious. James Garner stars as Jason McCullough, an easygoing drifter who wanders into a chaotic gold rush town desperate for a sheriff because theirs keep getting killed off. He quickly takes the job and immediately tangles with the Danby family, a bunch of total nutcase outlaws led by Walter Brennan and Bruce Dern. Garner's first act as sheriff, he arrests Dern's character and tosses him into the world's worst jail cell. Supporting cast is fantastic. Harry Morgan from Dragnet is the mayor, surprisingly hilarious, steals practically every scene he's in. Joan Hackett plays his perpetually embarrassed daughter and love interest for Garner, and Jack Elam as the goofy deputy is perfect, really shows his comedic chops here. The jokes hit non-stop, and there's literally something for everyone. Clever one-liners, blink and you'll miss it sight gags, total slapstick chaos. Garner basically outsmarts everyone without breaking a sweat. The Danbys try repeatedly to bust their brother out of jail, and the whole thing builds to this completely ridiculous, over-the-top final showdown. Honestly, one of the most purely enjoyable Western comedies you'll ever see.